Hey, welcome to the From the Shadows podcast. I'm your host, Shane Grove. And before we get started with this week's episode, I just want to remind everybody that if you want to check out all things From the Shadows podcast, go to our website, fromtheshadowspodcast.com. There's links to all of our social media and all the shenanigans that our social media queen, Nita, is up to on all those channels with shorts and posts and all kinds of funny stuff. So go check it out. Join those. Join in the fun, or don't. I guess I can't make you, but it'd be nice to have you. So, and also from the website, you can hit the contact button if you want to send me an email and tell me about an experience you had or a sighting, whatever, and maybe we can have you on the show if you want to come on and talk about it. So please do that. I'll read it. I'll get back to you. And if you want to get a hold of me directly, you can find me on all that social media. Send me a message, or just go to Shane Grove Author on Instagram. That's the easiest place to get a hold of me. So with that being said, I want to welcome a guest. I don't know how many guests we've had from the great state of Idaho, but he does not come bearing potatoes. So
Nope, not this time.
I think that's just nothing but a rumor that they grow potatoes out there
Even
now.
if I did have potatoes, I wouldn't get any because they send all the good ones out at other places.
Oh, jeez. So joining us is Micah from the great state of Idaho, who has some crazy good stories. And before we'll just get it out of the way, by the time this comes out, he and I will be in the throngs of delivering Christmas packages
Oh, don't remind me.
to Christmas
Don't look
package.
forward to that.
Yes. So just be
Pray for
nice.
us.
Yeah, pray for us. Be nice, because by the time this,
And be nice to your delivery drivers over the holidays.
yes, be nice to the delivery drivers. I have a lot of people on my mail route for first time listeners. Yes, I'm a mailman. If you don't know that, I don't know what to tell you, but it's always nice. Leave some cookies this time of year.
Yes, sir.
Leave a bottle of
Hot
water.
chocolate.
Cookies and hot chocolate. Cookies, some water, whatever. Take care of your delivery driver, especially if you're going to order everything online. So, okay.
And I know some of you people listening are the ones that were at the same house every day. Because
I don't.
I drive for Amazon. So I know that some of you are the ones that I'm seeing every single day. So make sure you take care of your drivers.
Take care of your drivers. Okay. All right. So anyway, enough of the.
Now that that's out of the way.
Yes, enough of that. We get the disgruntled delivery driver section portion of the episode out of the way. So, Micah, I want you to tell the same two stories that you told me, because I think our listeners are going to be they're going to be enthralled with these stories. They're pretty.
You want
cool.
them in chronological in the order they happened, or
You could. I'm going to let you. This is like your show now. I'm not.
oh dear,
You're just
we're
taking
both
over.
in trouble. Okay. So first one was March or April of 2015. I was a senior in high school. I had a friend who I grew up in a really, really small town in Idaho. Um, as in the population was 1,000 people if you got every redneck out of the hills. Small town.
Okay.
Excuse me. And he was from the same county, just a different town. And we both live now near the Boise area in Idaho, near the capital city. And we had learned that we both enjoyed coyote hunting, and we did that a lot on the weekends. If neither of us had a sporting event, because he was in golf, I was in track. Being in high school, you're always busy doing something. But there was a weekend that we didn't. So we didn't have tests. We didn't have any homework due. That week, we didn't have a sporting event. And so we had talked to our parents and gotten permission to skip school. Excuse me. And go coyote hunting for a week. And we were going to try to also do some wolf hunting because he had a family friend that's a sheep herder still in the area. So I'm not going to use names because I haven't talked to any of them about this ever, about telling our story. So We loaded up his Jeep and we called it the War Wagon because it was a two-door Jeep with big old gnarly knobby tires on it, and we had no business taking that thing some of the places that we did. Um, but we loaded up the truck and went up to McCall. He had a friend's house that we stayed at. Um, and the sheep herder that his family was friends with sometime before, not long before, like a couple of weeks, I think, had lost three livestock guardian dogs. And I think I told you this before when we talked. I don't remember if it was two Anatolian Shepherds and a Great Pyrenees or some mix of those two dogs, which, I mean, the biggest predator we have up there are wolves and bears, but those dogs are going to be able to hold their own against any natural predator. Like Anatolian Shepherds are big, mean livestock dogs. And something had killed his three livestock dogs, just shredded them. And he said that it was one black wolf that did it. And that was weird. So this sheep herder, who's one of the bigger ones in the area, is peeved. He has a $5,000 personal bounty on a black wolf. So we were going to try to go get us a black wolf and split 5 grand between us, which sounded fine to me. We ended up hunting near, there's actually a ski resort up there called Brundage Ski Resort. You can look it up on Google Maps. And we were about a mile and a half. I think we were northeast of Brundage Mountain. And we'd come into a clearing that it was a big clearing. It was about 300 yards long and probably 100 yards out in front of us. And we set up on the long end, on one of the long ends of it. And we set up, we do some predator calls. And I'm looking at my friend. I look over at my friend right as he, like, if you were to sit bolt upright, but in slow motion, he's back with his binos and he sits up slow and reaches over and tags me and goes, hey, 375 across the way. So I lied. The clearing is bigger than that because this thing that we shot at was 375 yards. And it, for all intents and purposes, is the biggest black wolf you can imagine. I'll get into the size here in a bit, like we talked about, but I had just an unsuppressed AR 223 with a scope on it, nothing crazy. He had basically the same rifle, but with a suppressor on it that his dad had done the process to get it legally suppressed. Normally, when we went coyote hunting, he would shoot first because obviously that gun is way quieter. And then if he misses, I take a follow-up shot. We're both scoped on the same creature, and we did it pretty well. We had a lot of success doing that. This time we'd agreed that I was going to shoot first because we should only need one shot to bring down a wolf. And I think he'd gotten first shot the time before. So I scope in. I've got my little shooting stand. I scope in. I've got him ranged. He's not quite trotting. He's just moving at a real even pace across this clearing. We've got the wind in our face. It's a perfect setup. And I take my breath and I shoot. And to this day, I don't know if I missed. If I missed, I don't know how. But that, like, we were both scoped and that thing was gone before my friend could follow up. And we figured out later that it covered about 70 yards in no more than 3-4 seconds. It was hauling across this clearing. So having shot the unsuppressed rifle, we decided to leave the area for the day because this thing was gone. I mean, I don't think I hit it. And if I did, it didn't do anything because we did check for blood before we left. There was no blood, no hair. I think we didn't even see tracks where it was at. So we leave. We ended up getting a couple coyotes that evening in a different valley. We came back the next day, and this is where I'll kind of mention the size that I talked to you about. That wolf had walked in front of a stump. I'm going to call it a wolf because I don't know what else to call it. And it was, I'm not a big guy. I'm only 5'9", and but that stump was, I mean, up to my hips. like right between my hip and my rib cage. So 2.5, 3 feet. And there was space between the bottom of the wolf's chest and the top of the stump. And so that puts the shoulders at 3.5 feet, top of the shoulders at 4. Like it was huge. It was the biggest canine I've ever seen. And for all intents and purposes, it was a canine. It had the ears, it had a wolf's head, it had the tail, but it was black as night. I mean, blacker than night. It was blacker than the black of my crosshair in my scope. There was a difference between my crosshair and the color of the animal. And I I say I don't know how I missed, because I had made that same shot almost exactly. It was 350 yards on a coyote, and I rolled it. And the coyotes in Idaho are only maybe 2 feet at the shoulder and about 65, 70 pounds.
Hmm.
They're not very big. And this creature was way bigger than the coyotes that I'd killed less than a week prior. And I just looked at my friend and I remember saying, "You saw that, right? There was space under that thing in the stump." And he goes, "That's the biggest dang wolf I've ever seen." And that was where it ended. It was just, I don't know what it was, but I I have heard stories from Idaho about Dogman, and having heard the story from the sheep herder about the black wolf that killed his 3 guard dogs, I wonder if maybe that's what it was. And I can't say for certain. I don't know, but it was crazy. It was either a dogman or the biggest freaking wolf in the state of Idaho.
Well, and when we talked, because I don't know how big black wolves are, okay, and I looked it up, and there's some giant. I mean,
They're
they
huge.
they look big. Like so I was like shocked at how big they were, but still. They're not. I didn't see anything that was so big that it would be spaced between a 3 foot stump and its stomach. You know what I'm saying? Like
No, that's
on all
exactly my
fours.
point. Like it was huge. It, I don't know. I don't know that I'll ever know, but it was pretty crazy.
But I can say, you know, like I said, I was not there. I did not see it. You're saying that, the surface area is so much bigger. How did you miss it? Number one.
Yeah.
Okay. But I do know when people have described seeing what they call dogman standing on their hind legs, they're 8 or 9 feet tall, which is insane to me.
I
Okay.
can't imagine that.
But but if a regular, like one of these black wolves is said, some of the biggest ones are said to be 7 foot if you stand them up
Yeah.
tall. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I sent you that picture, and it's the guy that I don't know how tall he is. He looks like a pretty good sized dude, and he's got it under the front legs, and the back feet are touching the ground. And that one was in Idaho. I did verify that.
So you can imagine if something was not 8, 9 foot tall, if it was down on all fours, there might be enough space because its
Yeah.
legs would have to be. I have no idea. Now, was there any further damage to the animals? For that farmer, like did he lose any more dogs
I
or?
mean, he had wolves coming in and killing his sheep regularly, because so that was 2015. I want to say it was like 2008. Don't quote me on that, but they did reintroduce wolves in Idaho um, around that time, and they ran just absolutely rampant. There used to be, I lived right by the golf course in the town I grew up in, and there was elk herds on the golf course at night sometimes before they reintroduced the wolves. And once the wolves came around, they disappeared. I mean, I had a friend that was a year above me in school, and he lived in city limits, which there was still a big patch of woods right near his house. He lost his 4-H steer to a pack of wolves
Holy smokes.
in city limits.
That's
But then
crazy.
again, I grew up in a really tiny town. We had mountain lion tracks on Main Street one year. Fish and Game had to dart and relocate a mountain lion in town.
Holy smokes. So, okay. So for those people that are like, oh, this guy didn't know what he was seeing, you know what you're you grew up a little bit different than city slicker
I
or
mean,
someone.
I wasn't a crazy outdoorsman by
Mm-hmm.
any means, but like I said, ears pointed up like a wolf, the snout, the tail, it it looked like the biggest black wolf you can imagine. For reference, I was out on my delivery route the other day and had a Great Dane stand up on a fence in a house, and even that big Great Dane was not eye level with me up on the fence. And that's a big dog. It was a big dog.
I can't imagine. I can't. I mean, I know how big steers are. My kids took steers to the fair. We have
Hmm.
cows on the farm. For something to have the gumption, even a couple of them, to try to take down a 1,600 pound animal.
And that one was a wolf kill because so that guy's dad and my dad worked together. And my friend's dad had seen the wolves in the pasture. He saw them attacking the steers. So that one was for sure a pack of wolves. I don't remember how many, but that one was wolves. It wasn't a question of it.
But then he didn't come back and say. And by the way, there was a wolf that looked like it weighed 450 pounds.
No, but granted, so the town I grew up in is about 30 minutes, about 20 miles
Mm-hmm.
from where that sheep herder was. So it's not quite the same area,
Mm-hmm.
but it's the same county. We lived in Valley County at the time, and I grew up in Cascade, and that sheep herder was up outside McCall.
Hmm.
And like I said, you can look that up on a map, and but it was a pretty wild time in that area.
So, did you like? What did you think? Like, what were you thinking as you guys are looking through and seeing how big that thing was? Like, did you like double clutch and say, should we really shoot this or?
No, because at the time, I knew there was a bounty on a black wolf. I knew one had been seen within like a 4 or 5 mile radius at that ranch, at the sheep ranch. And I knew there was a $5,000 bounty on it. And I was like, cool, we're going to get to take home a black wolf. And this is a huge wolf. I didn't realize how big it was until we got down there and actually saw the stump and realized how big it was. I mean, at, again, hindsight's always 2020. But no, at the time, I was just like, this is an enormous black wolf. And that was really all that I thought about. I didn't, because granted, I loved Monster Quest when I was growing up. We kind of talked about that. Monster Quest was one of my favorite shows. I was always the kid that wanted to watch Monster Quest or wanted to watch Finding Bigfoot, or I've watched Expedition Bigfoot now, but I didn't, and I hear this all the time on podcasts. I'm like, they're not in Idaho. They're just, I don't know, they're not here. You don't think about those things.
Well, so I guess the point is regardless of whether that is what people see, get up on their hind legs and walk, whether that it was a Dogman or not, it was at the very least a giant black wolf, which
Yep.
the wildlife people will probably say those don't, nothing that big exists. And I think the point is I've talked to enough people all over the United States that when the wildlife service tells you we don't have those, we don't have that kind of cat, we don't have that kind of bear, they either are ignorant or
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 they're
they
selling something.
they don't want to tell you. And it's nothing against them. I mean, they're probably following orders,
Hmm.
but I guess the
Yep.
the end of the story is look, there's big stuff out there that you just can't
Yep.
account for, and you just need to be aware of
Just
it.
always be aware of it, be watching
Yeah.
for it. And I mean, I have seen wolf tracks. Like I said, I'm not a big guy, but like soda can, my hand for reference. I've seen wolf tracks bigger, like as big as my palm. Like
Jeez.
that wolf track went to like my last knuckle on my hand. And it was a wolf track because we were elk hunting. This was in a different area, completely different area. And we did hear wolves. We knew that they were in the area. We actually, the girl I was dating at the time, which is who I was hunting with, knew a guy that was hunting on the mountain and ended up shooting one. So we know it was wolves, but that track was, I
But
mean,
but still,
that's a 6 inch wide track.
people are
It's
shooting
huge.
people are shooting them, but they're not as big as what you saw.
No.
Okay. Well, I'll be curious to hear because I know we have a lot of listeners from out in that region. I'll be curious to see and like the Idaho and the Dakotas and Montana and stuff if anybody else has seen or had a similar experience with something that big. And because imagine, I had a recent guest who thought, hey, is that a great big dog? Until it got up on its hind legs and walked away. So,
So glad what I saw didn't do that. I think I would have had a heart attack and died on the spot if that thing had stood up as big as it was.
jeez. Well, I'm sure. I'm sure. So, so yeah. Anybody listening, if you've had an experience like that, I mean, we want to hear about it because we want to either have some confirmation that there is wolves that big, or maybe Micah and his buddy did see something that wasn't quite a regular
Wasn't quite what
wolf.
it seems.
Yeah. So okay, cool. So I know you got another story. What's the other story?
So this story is kind of the more infuriating of the two for me because I never actually saw anything. I will say that right off the bat. I don't know exactly what it was. I've heard, but the only thing I've heard of are the stories like what I'll mention. So this was in September of 2018. Um, I had decided to go hunting in an area called the Weezer River Zone. All these stories happened in Idaho. And I was by an area called Cuddy Mountain. You can look it up again. You can look it up on Google Maps. It'll pull right up. Um, I had gone in on a scouting trip after finding, I used to work at a sporting goods store called Sportsman's Warehouse. And one day I was goofing around with my boss looking at Google Maps and I was like, I'm going to go check out this canyon. And it was right by Cuddy Mountain. So I found a little pullout where I could take my truck and go up there and park for the night and went up by myself on just like a day scouting trip, found elk, had bear sign, deer sign. I had a spot I could go to in Glass. So I was like, all right, I'm going to come back in a week and I know where I'm going. So next week, I came back. I think I was up there on a Wednesday because I was intentionally up there in the middle of the week. So like the third week of September. And I wasn't supposed to be back until like Saturday or Sunday. Supposed to be gone for like 4 days by myself. I knew where I was going. I was just going to sleep in the bed of my truck. And I had told my brother-in-law, like, hey, this is where I'm parking my vehicle. I had it on Google Maps. I had a pin for him. I told him this is where I'm going to be glassing from. That way, if I'm not back by Monday, this is where you need to come looking for me. Told my girlfriend, told my family, and away I went. So I got up there. I left early that morning, got into my spot a little later than I wanted, like sun was already coming up. And I sit down in Glass, and there is not another living creature. The whole area is like deathly silent. There's no birds. I'm not seeing any animal sign. There's just nothing there. And I hiked around all day. I think I covered like 10 miles that day, just basically going in circles like that around where I had been glassing from. And I didn't see a thing. I didn't hear anything. I had heard a couple of bugles when I was up there scouting. And there was nothing. There was no animals, no birds, no chipmunks, not another living creature to be seen. So as I'm finally, it's about an hour from dark, and I'm like, okay, I need to start heading back. So I start heading back to my truck. There's a trail that I could get onto to go kind of back towards where the road was to my truck. And I have my bow in my left hand. I did carry a pistol, which was on my right hip. Not technically supposed to during bow season, but it was a 9mm. I had it more as a sense of security than anything. And I'm walking, just kind of lost in thought, and realize that there's another pair of footsteps down the hill to my left side in the trees. And to my right is like just kind of like a little grassy area going up the side of the hill. But there is another, what sounds like another pair of something's walking off to my left. And initially my thought is bear, because I had seen bear sign up there. I had a guy who taught me a lot about bow hunting. He had hunted the area and he'd been stalked by a mountain lion in there. So I don't know what it is off the bat. So I stopped walking and I'm kind of looking down to my left and I don't see anything, but whatever it was stopped moving when I did. And so I'm like, okay, I'm fine. I'm just freaking myself out. You know, I'm 20, 22, 23. It's my first real solo hunt by myself. I'm like, you're just freaking yourself out. That might be a deer that got up and ran away for all you know. So I start moving and it starts moving again next to me. It's, I don't know, 15, 20 yards away, sounds like. So I stop again and it stops again. And now I'm like, okay, I'm not psyching myself out. Something is stalking me. And again, I'm trying to look through the trees and I can't see anything. It's pretty thick, some pretty good sized trees in the area. And start moving for a third time and it starts moving with me again. So I stop for a third time and it stops again. And now I'm like, okay, this is a mountain lion or a bear. I'm by myself. I'm about a mile from my car. I'm starting to freak out because I'm scared. And I'm like, this is the first day of my hunt. Nobody's coming to look for me until Monday. If something happens, like I'm screwed if I get hurt. And so this last time before I drew my pistol is because I realized it, like I started realizing that it's 2 feet. It's not 2 feet for every one step I'm taking. It's matching my boot steps on the trail. It's crunch, crunch, not crunch, 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 or anything like that. So like if you've ever spent any time around animals, you know that it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. This was not. This was 1, 2, 1, 2. And that scared me because I'm like, I don't know what this is. Like there was no other cars up here, which doesn't necessarily mean anything because there's other ways to get into there. But I'm like, what is going on? So this time when I stopped, or when I started moving again, I did like a short step and I caught it taking an extra step off to my left. And I mean, my adrenaline's pumping. I'm terrified. And all of a sudden, there's this big just noise. And I don't do it justice, but it's this huge, just like a huff almost. But I think I told you this. I work as a concert bartender here in Nampa. And it felt like when there was a concert that I worked where the big speaker is only like 30 yards away. And when that drummer hits the bass drum, you can feel it. And that's how that noise felt. I felt it in my chest. So I drop my bow, which is never a good thing, but I'm panicking. And I turn and I draw my pistol, but there's no more noises. Nothing's walking. Nothing's moving. And I'm pointing my pistol and I'm like leaning like this side to side and trying to see. And I'm shaking now just from telling it, but I was shaking so bad that I don't think I would have hit anything if I had tried to shoot it. But after felt like an hour, but probably 15, 20 seconds of me pointing my pistol and looking, something paved a trail down the side of the mountain away from me. It was crashing through tree branches and just, it sounded like you took a tank and let it loose in neutral down the side of the mountain. That's what I imagine it would sound like. And I picked up my bow and I had a hook on my backpack that I had made that I could just set the limb of my bow in it and it would rattle, but it wouldn't fall and I could have both hands free. And I didn't put my pistol away and I walked out. That's the fastest mile-ish I've ever walked without running in my life. And I got to my truck and I went home. I came back to the valley. I got to my girlfriend's house and she was like, what are you doing back here already? You're like, wasn't supposed to be back for another 4 days. And I told her, I was like, I don't know what happened. I just don't want to hunt up there anymore. And I didn't tell anybody this story until 2023, I think. I kept it to myself. But what prompted me to think that this may have been a Bigfoot encounter is that I started driving for Amazon in November of 2023. And I was listening to Sasquatch Chronicles. And it was a guy, I think he was in California, who had almost the same exact story.
Mm-hmm.
Something walking alongside him, the huff. But then the difference in his story was that a different one stepped out on the trail about 30 yards ahead of him. So with him, there was two. With me, I don't know. But I was walking up somebody's path to their front door and I just froze because it was the only thing I had ever heard I was like, that's what happened to me. That is almost exactly my story, except I didn't see a second one. And again, I didn't see anything. I didn't see a Sasquatch or Bigfoot, whatever you want to call them, in this story. But it's the only thing I've ever heard that comes close.
Everything ticks off the boxes, okay? Which, some people could say, well, he's just repeating the stuff here. Well, if you're going to make up a story, it's going to be a lot better, I would hope.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like what that does is just reinforces the small details that happen again and again and again. And what always strikes me about this is these creatures, seemingly, if we're going to assume, because it's either a person or it's a Bigfoot. That's it. That's all I can think of. I don't think a mountain lion. I don't think a bear is going to act that way.
Well, a bear, if it's close enough that you feel threatened, there's going to be jaw clacking. There's going to be growling. They're going to make more noise than that. A mountain lion, you're probably not going to see it unless it wants you to see it or it's on top of you.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times they're going to be up in a tree.
Yeah.
But
well, it's weird. It's weird that if this is how, like, why is Bigfoot or Sasquatch so careful when it's first pacing you out or stalking people? Okay. But it almost is like it wants to see how long it could take before you realize it's there.
I don't know.
Because when they take off, they could care less. And you hear that all the time. You hear like these things go crashing through the woods. Like they don't care who hears them. I don't care if the whole valley hears them. But up to that point, they're like stealth-like, and they don't want to be heard.
They don't want to be seen or heard.
It's almost like it's almost like it huffed at you to be like, "Hey, look, I see you have a gun. Don't think."
Well, at the point when it huffed at me, I hadn't drawn my pistol yet. I didn't draw the pistol until after the noise because at that point, all I knew to associate it with is a bear. I'm like, I'm going to get charged by a bear, which it didn't make sense. One noise isn't typical bear behavior if they're threatened. Granted, again, I'm no expert outdoorsman, but I have, I have friends who've heard it. I've seen it. Like we had a bear that would come and raid our garbage cans, and he wasn't quiet about it.
He wasn't like sneaking.
He's not sneaking around. Like he was, you knew he was there. You could hear him huffing. You could hear him snorting and growling. Like,
well, it
doesn't match up with bear behavior.
You say you're no expert, but you've probably already been out on two more hunting expeditions than 95% of the people who tune in and listen. You know,
Yeah.
like when I hear from hunters or outdoorsmen people that they seem to know, like they don't always know what it is, but they do seem to know what it isn't. And I have to, you have to kind of listen to people who are out there hunting and around animals and talking to other people about them. And I mean, as soon as you start telling the story, it's like, okay, this I've heard this same
Hmm.
same sort of, um, So have you dove in and done any searching to see, are there Bigfoot sightings in this area? Are there Dogman sightings in the other
Um,
area? Like what kind of stories are there out there?
so I haven't looked into Dogman sightings, admittedly. I haven't, honestly, I haven't even thought about it. Um, but I did look at the Bigfoot mapping project, and there's not a ton of sightings from that Council Cuddy Mountain area. I mean, there's a few. It's a big national forest area, and Council, the only town nearby Cuddy Mountain, is even smaller than Cascade. We used to play against them in football um, growing up, and it's a tiny, tiny town. Like, I think their population sign says like 700, something
Hmm.
like that. It's a little teeny tiny town. And there's a few. There's one, actually, there was one at a spot called Sagehen Reservoir, which isn't far from Council at all. Um, the funny thing was, there is actually more sightings in Valley County where I grew up than there is over there. I think it had like the most or the second most per county in Idaho. And there was some that I was like, well, I grew up 20 minutes from that area. There's another ski resort up there called Tamarack Ski Resort.
Hmm.
It's about 15 miles from the house I lived in. I could be there. I could be at Tamarack in 30 minutes from my house. And there was sightings on from a couple that had like a little cottage out on the edge of the resort, and they had something happen. They had something whooping and circling their cabin at night. There's some that there was a fairly recent one. I think it was 2023 in Idaho City, which is about an hour away.
Hmm.
So there's plenty of sightings in that area, but that was funny because I never would have thought that there was so many interactions in that area. But after looking at that, it makes sense. Idaho, there's only three big cities really, and I live in one of them. Other than that, it's a lot of forest, it's a lot of high desert.
Hmm.
Um, I mean, up by Cuddy Mountain and by a town called Riggins that's not far from there, there's fish and huckleberries and cattle and deer and elk. I don't have any doubts that they
And
could grow and live well up
yeah,
there.
not a lot of people. That's
Yeah, and not a lot of people. I mean, if you've
that's the
heard
key.
stories about Idaho at any point, you've heard about the Frank Church Wilderness. That area is crazy rugged. There's not a lot of people up there. Yeah, I mean, it's called the River of No Return Wilderness. And yeah. And
When
I
is the
there's
next tour? When's the next river tour? I mean, come on, let's go.
I'm not going up there, but I haven't been back to Cuddy Mountain since that happened, and I won't ever go back there by myself again.
Really? Yeah, and
Nope.
like when you're telling. So, what is the mindset? I mean, I'm not a hunter. Okay, everybody in my family, everybody hunted stuff. I'm just not a big hunter. But and certainly where in Ohio, it's nothing like that. Okay,
Mhm.
you can't go out. I couldn't even go get lost where we live. You know what I'm saying? Um, but what's the mindset when you go out there all by yourself? Like, wouldn't you just say, "I want to take a buddy with me," like just out
Well,
of
I had
principle?
tried, but there was nobody available. Um,
Okay.
I mean, I had people who knew, like I said, I had people who knew where I was. My brother-in-law knew if I am not back by Monday at 12:01 a.m., you need to come looking for me because I'm lost or hurt.
Hmm.
I did have a if there's an app that you can download called Onyx Maps. It's got a tracker, it's got offline maps, it's got a route tracker so that you can get back to where you came from. I had a GPS. little GPS radio thing. It was a little cheap unit, but it worked. So I did take precautions. But the mindset is kind of like, especially as a bow hunter, it's like just kind of an accomplishment that you want to go for. You're like, I want to go do this. There's nobody that can come with me. Okay, I'll go do it by myself.
I kind of get the feeling it's like somebody telling me they're going to go run a marathon. Be like, why? But okay, I get it.
I don't know why you would run a marathon either. They make cars so you don't have to run that far. But no, it was just like my brother-in-law was working, my girlfriend was working. I had a couple buddies, but they had tags for a different area that was also an archery hunt. I just couldn't get things to line up. So I was like, all right, I'll go by myself. I know where I'm going. I know how I'm going to get there. Like I just felt it's preparation is what it is.
Well, I know you're just a young guy. So I'm going to give you an old guy's piece of advice. When all that stuff lines up, it's the universe saying, hey, look, don't go. It's not saying I should go by myself.
I haven't done it by myself again. And I probably won't ever go again by myself.
Holy smokes. Well, I mean, I appreciate you reaching out. I mean, you listened to us when I said hit the contact button and send me an email.
I did.
I appreciate that. I'm glad. I'm glad that you made it out alive. But I'm going to tell you that story, and like you said, you've heard enough stories that line up with your encounter to know that you weren't imagining something and that there was something out there. So,
and again, I didn't see anything, which part of me wishes I had, and the other part of me is like, why would you wish you saw that? Are you crazy? You know, I know. I wrestle with that too. It would have given me an answer, but I don't know that it's an answer I really want.
No, and I do. I get asked to go out a lot, and it's the point of, if I believe when guests come on, I believe their stories. I've gone out a couple times and had stuff happen, and I just know there's stuff out there. I don't need to be 20 feet away from an 8 or 9 foot thing that is really not supposed to exist. Like, there's still a part of me that could say, okay, I know they exist because people are telling me they exist, and there's a lot of credible stories, but I don't have to worry about seeing one walk across my front yard. You know? I'm perfectly content with hearing stories. If I ever see one, I guess I see one. I would rather there be people with me and not by myself. Well, if you do
I haven't ever gone looking for them or anything, but that may not be out of the question. Like, I'd be willing to do it if there was a bunch of people, but we'll see.
Well, if you do see one, don't call Wes. Call me first, and then I could text Wes and say, hey, look, I got this great story from this guy.
Sounds good. You'll be the first one to know.
Well, thank you so much for getting a hold of us and coming on and sharing these. I hope everybody enjoyed them as much as I did. And I want to hear from some other people from Idaho. Tell me what.
Me too. I love hearing stories from Idaho.
Yeah. So have a great delivery season. And I hope all your customers, just tell them, say, hey, listen to this episode. You don't even know your delivery driver's almost famous. So there you go. and then they'll get the hint that they need to leave something out for you.
Yeah, no kidding. Huh? Yeah, best of luck to you too this season. Drive safe, and thanks for having me on. I appreciate the chance to tell my story. Like I said, I was a little bit nervous. I still am. It still scares me to tell that, especially the second story. But I appreciate you giving me a chance to talk about it, and I look forward to hopefully some more Idaho people reaching out to you with stories.
Yep, me too. So thank you. Thanks so much, man.
Of course, Shane, you have a good evening.
Thank you for tuning in to this week's episode of the From the Shadows podcast. Until next time, never shy away from the darkness or what may be lurking in the shadows. We are out.
God only knows what's hiding